Hey, we're back. We are going to finish up reading The Confessions of Nat Turner with Jamel and Darlene on camera, and me reading the role for Thomas Gray. Um, so there we go. So where did we leave off?
I think on okay, we can start from Gray after T. Brantley.
What page is that? Oh,
Okay, no, okay. Was not Christ crucified. Hold on. Okay, appearance of the sign.
what page?
6.
Okay. Do you not find yourself mistaken now?
Was not Christ crucified? And by the signs in the heavens that it would make known to me, when I should commence the great work, and until the first sign appeared, I should conceal it from the knowledge of man, and on the appearance of the sun.
The eclipse of the sun last February.
I should arise. Is that right? Yeah. I should arise and prepare myself and slay my enemies with their own weapons. And immediately on the sign appearing in the heavens, the seal was removed from my lips, and I communicated the great work laid out for one to do to four in whom I had the greatest confidence: Henry, Hart, Nelson, and Sam. It was intended by us to have begun the work of death on the 4th July last. Many were the plans formed and rejected by us, and it affected my mind to such a degree that I felt sick. And the time passed without our coming to any determination how to commence. Still forming new schemes and rejecting them, when the sign appeared again, which determined me not to wait longer. Oh God, hold on, let me read that again. Okay. Many were the plans formed and rejected by us, and it affected my mind to such a degree that I felt sick. And the time passed without our coming to any determination how to commence. Still forming new schemes and rejecting them, when the signs appeared again, which determined me not to wait longer. Since the commencement of 1830, I had been living with Mr. Joseph Travis, who was to me a kind master and placed the greatest confidence in me. In fact, I had no cause to complain of his treatment of me.
On Saturday evening, the 20th of August, it was agreed between Henry, Hart, and Nat to prepare a dinner the next day for the men they expected, and then to concert a plan as they had not yet determined on any. Hart, on the following morning, brought a pig, and Henry brandy, and being joined by Sam, Nelson, Will, and Jack, they prepared in the woods a dinner.
Where about 3 o'clock I joined.
Why were you so backward in joining them?
The same reason they had caused me not to mix with them for years before. I saluted them on coming up and asked Will how came he there? He answered, his life was worth no more than others, and his liberty is dear to him. I asked him if he thought to obtain it. He said he would or lose his life. This was enough. Excuse me. So sorry, everyone. Oh. This will be her.
Okay.
Hello?
I'm sorry to interrupt your rehearsal, but I'm at the door and can't get in.
Okay, hold on. Just come around to the front gate, because, okay, you're already out there. I'm about, because we had to do it in the chapel.
Oh,
In the church, yeah. Not the chapel, the church.
the church.
Tell her to come through so we can say and welcome meet her.
See the front door?
Yeah.
Or,
You know the place where we got the tour at?
yeah, where it came in the back door?
Yeah.
So you want me to come in the back door?
Yeah, right there.
All right, I'm here already.
Okay, great.
All right, okay.
Do you want to meet?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Huh? Hey, Karen, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I believe we have met once before, a long time ago.
Did we?
You were doing a Juneteenth program, not in Portsmouth, it was someplace else, but Stephen Alexander and I and a little girl were doing a show called Peanut Man.
I don't remember.
Well, you had a lot of other things going on that same year. But
Do you
it's
know
been,
where was that?
I don't know, because it's probably been, let's see, my daughter was 8 years old and she's 30 now. So,
And I told her I definitely want to introduce her to Steven.
so that was a long time ago. She's met Stephen when she remembers it or not.
Yeah, I would love to meet him
Yeah,
again.
I know how it is.
Yeah.
So I think about these people that have lived in the same house their whole life, same neighborhood, same church. That ain't me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that.
Right.
And I'll see them, and sometimes I know them, and sometimes I don't. Some people came up to me, I didn't know who the heck they were.
Right.
Said I taught their child in theater. I'm like, oh yeah. You pretend like you know them and hope they heard
Right,
their
exactly.
name.
I smile and nod a lot, you know. I just kind of smile and nod and keep moving.
Well, I'm excited you bought that building.
Well, I'll tell you, it's turning into, if I know what I know now, I wouldn't be in this position, right? But, we're in the thick of it, and I'm looking at June being our grand opening and everything like that.
That's good.
Are you going to do anything for the grand opening? Or?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. We're gonna throw everything but the kitchen sink in terms of that. So I'm sure you will be involved in some way.
Oh, trust me, get me involved.
We would love for you to come on our African history.
Yes,
African
please
history
do.
one day.
Okay.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay. So that's already happening now. Or?
Well, it's happening on. We haven't had anybody call. I think we've done 2 walks since COVID started.
Okay.
But we had a whole. Spent all this money. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was probably $50-$60 on all the little rack cards with all the dates of all of the walks on it. They're no good. They ain't no good. So we launched it actually during African American History Month, but it's a year-round walk.
Okay.
We do it twice. When we get back going, it's supposed to be twice a month.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's an hour walk. And
Yeah.
Jamal was one of the characters.
And we sing, we entertain. That's.
And we did it once for the schools for 3.
Yeah.
Was it 3 or 4 first grade classes?
3.
They went to the Children's Museum. And half of them went to Children's Museum, half of them went with us, and then we swapped.
Okay.
And it was raining that day, so we couldn't take them all around. So they let us do it here. But it had stopped raining enough where we could do it out in the graveyard and stuff too. And
Okay.
I told the story of Mary Peak underneath that big oak tree.
Right.
It was really, they loved it.
Yeah, they do love that kind of stuff.
Oh yes, my favorite part was when Karen, because Karen had us pretend, her husband Joe, he would pretend like he was the dog, and so
He would be in the other room.
he would be in
they
another
couldn't see him.
room,
Wow,
so they
my
couldn't see
goodness.
him. So when we walked in the hallway,
Right.
she said, "Now be quiet. If you hear the dogs, you have to."
You have to wade in the water.
You have to
We
wade
were
in the
singing
water.
Wade in the water.
Right.
Wonderful.
And when they started-
Underground Railroad.
And when he started barking, they did the way they loved it. It was just.
And their teacher said that when they got back to school, they sang that song for weeks. She said that's all they sang was Wade in the water.
That is perfect.
I loved it. It was great.
And actually, I'm writing a show called Wade in the Water. It was supposed to be done. Well, when they canceled the Mojo, I stopped writing.
Oh God, because I wanted to do that, and I'm mad I missed that, and I'm mad we missed the Garden Festival. But it's
Yeah, but it's Wade in the Water. It's going to be like encapsulated history of African Americans in Portsmouth. But it's a combination of monologues, and then we'll break. Everybody will be frozen except the person doing the monologue, and then we might break, and the whole cast sing a song, and maybe 2 people do some interaction.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's gonna be good. But so maybe we'll get to performing in your theater sometime.
Yeah.
No, that'd be great.
That sounds wonderful.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the goal, is for it to be a just kind of community resource, you know,
Right.
because there's so many incredible stories out there.
I'm sorry, this is the person I was supposed to meet. Hold on. Hey, you ready?
So, yeah.
I'm
Right.
at the church. It's right next to the Commodore. It's right next to the Commodore.
Big yellow.
It's on the corner. The corner, Court Street and 1 block from the coffee shop. No, I'm not at St. Paul's. I'm at Trinity, which is on the corner of Court Street and High Street. It's, yeah. Okay, all right, I'm coming out now. All right. Let me talk later. I have to go.
Understood.
But it was so nice to meet you
You
finally,
too.
because I know you're a busy lady, because I've been trying to track you down. I'm the same way. All right, I'm trying to get back to.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely glad to meet you. And I want to ask you about Kwanzaa.
Yes.
Are you doing anything in terms
Well,
of that?
we're supposed. See, we have a character that strolls called Father Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Santa Claus. He's the old Father Christmas from
Okay.
the 1700s, 1800s. And Stephen's doing that because my husband usually does it, which he looks the part completely.
Mhm.
And so Stephen was doing it, but Stephen, because we couldn't do candy canes, Stephen learned all these magic tricks.
Mhm.
And one of them really has a lot to do with light. He's got these fingers. So I'm like, you know what, we don't, you don't put all this effort into this. I said, let's do something for Kwanzaa. Let's make you a Kwanzaa character that'll be every year.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk during Kwanzaa. So I'm getting ready to make him these beautiful tunic and robes that he can wear. So that's it. We're just right now we're just doing a strolling character. But I told Jamil, I'm hoping that next year, if all this passes,
Mm-hmm.
that we can actually maybe convince the city to do like an event that happens every evening of Kwanzaa,
Right.
where you talk about the different principles
Mhm.
and and have something for the activity
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
but it revolves around that principle, whatever
Right.
it is.
Right.
So maybe we could partner on that next
Absolutely.
next Kwanzaa.
Absolutely. Definitely want to do something,
Yeah.
for that, the holiday and everything.
Mhm.
And this year we're looking just to do the reading with the Confessions of Nat Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And we're developing this, so this is like, just going to be fairly informal and so forth like that. And, I didn't know if you were scheduling something for, starting on the 26th.
We're just going to have
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hopefully, we're going to have that character strolling.
Okay.
At least on the weekends.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but
So then we'll be good for that Sunday.
yeah, no, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right.
Wonderful.
So nice to see you.
All right.
All right, baby. I'll see you later.
All right. Oh, Greg hasn't got back to me on the Sunday thing yet, so I don't know what he's
He's
doing.
strolling right now.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So,
He's strolling right now. So if I see him, I'll mention it to him.
okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Love you, baby. Love you.
See you. Love you too.
Alrighty.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that, everyone.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
I think that was all recorded on our podcast.
Yes, it was. Okay. Let's see.
I got at the top of 7.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, I think so. Is it? Yes.
I should have. No, we were always near the bottom now. Why were you so backward in joining them?
Okay. The same reason that had caused me not to mix with them for years before. I saluted them on coming up and asked Will how come he here. He answered his life was worth no more than others, and his liberty is dear to him. I asked him if he thought to attain it. He said he would or lose his life. This was enough to put me in full confidence. Jack, I knew, was only a tool in the hands of Hart. It was quickly agreed we should commence at home.
Mr. J. Target.
On that night, and until we had armed and equipped ourselves and gathered sufficient force, neither age nor sex was to be spared.
Which was invariably adhered to.
We remained at the feast until about 2 hours in the night, when we went to the house and found Austin. They all went to the cider press and drank except myself.
On returning to the house, Hart went to the door with an axe for the purpose of breaking it open, and they knew they were strong enough to murder the family if they were awakened by the noise, but reflecting that it might create an alarm in the neighborhood, they determined to enter the house secretly and murder them whilst sleeping.
Hart got a ladder and set it against the chimney, on which I ascended, and hoisting a window, entered and came downstairs, unbarred the door, and removed the guns from their places. It was then observed that I might have to spill the first blood, on which, armed with a hatchet and accompanied by Will, I entered my master's chamber. It being dark, I could not give a death blow. The hatchet glanced from his head. He sprung from the bed and called his wife.
Her name now forever lost to history.
It was his last word. Will laid him dead with the blow of his axe, and Mrs. Travis shared the same fate as she lay in bed.
The murder of his family, 5 in number, was the work of a moment. Not one of them awoke.
There was a little infant sleeping in a cradle that was forgotten until we had left the house and gone some distance, when Harry and Will returned and killed it. We got here 4 guns that would shoot and several old muskets with a pound or 2 of powder. We remained some time at the barn where we paraded. I formed them in a line as soldiers, and after carrying them through all the maneuvers I was master of, marched them off to Mr. Francis, about 600 yards distance.
Sam and Will went to the door and knocked. Mr. Francis asked who was there. Sam replied it was him and he had a letter for him, on which he got up and came to the door. They immediately seized him, and dragging him out a little from the door, he was dispatched by repeated blows on the head. There was no other white person in the family. They started from there for Mrs. Reese's, maintaining the most perfect silence on their march, where, finding the door unlocked, they entered and murdered Mrs. Reese in her bed while sleeping. Her son awoke, but it was only to sleep the sleep of death. He had only time to say, "Who is that?" and he was no more.
From Mrs. Reese's, we went to Mrs. Turner, a mile distance, which we reached about sunrise on Monday morning. Henry, Austin, and Sam went to the still, where finding Mr. Peoples, Austin shouted, and the rest of us went to the house. As we approached, the family discovered us and shut the door. "Vain halt!" Will, with one stroke of his axe, opened it, and we entered and found Mrs. Turner and Mrs. Newsom in the middle of the room, almost frightened to death. Will immediately killed Mrs. Turner with one blow of his axe. I took Mrs. Newsom by the hand, and with the sword I had when I was apprehended, I struck her several times, blah, 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 blah. Jamil, you're making up words. I took Mrs. Newsom by the hand, and with the sword I had when I was apprehended, I struck her several blows over the head. But not being able to kill her, as the sword was dull, Will turned around and discovered it, dispatched her also.
A general destruction of property in search for money and ammunition always succeeded the murders. By this time, the company amounted to 15, and 9 men mounted, who started from Mrs. Whitehead's. The other 6 were to go through a byway to Mr. Bryant's and rejoin the main party of Mrs. Whitehead's.
As we approached the house, we discovered Mr. Richard Whitehead standing in the cotton patch near the lane fence. We called over into the lane, "Mr. Whitehead!" Will, the executioner, was near at hand with his fatal axe to send him to an untimely grave. As we pushed on to the house, I discovered someone running around the garden, and thinking it was some of the White family, I pursued them, but finding it was a servant girl belonging to the house. I returned to commence the work of death, but they whom I left had not been idle. All the family were already murdered, but Mrs. Whitehead and her daughter, Margaret. I love the way that I just did that, because I couldn't do it at first. As I came round to the door, I saw Will pulling Mrs. Whitehead out of the house, and at the step, he nearly severed her head from her body with his broad axe. Mrs. Margaret, when I discovered her, had concealed herself in the corner, formed by the projection of the cellar cap from the house. On my approach, she fled, but soon overtaken, and after repeated blows with the sword, I killed her by a blow on the head with a fence rail.
By this time, the six who had gone by Mrs. Bryant's rejoined us and informed that they had done the work of death assigned to them. They again divided, part going to Mr. Richard Porter's, thence to Nathaniel Francis's, the others to Mr. Howell Harris and to Mr. T. Doyle's.
On my reaching Mr. Porter's, he had escaped with his family. I understood there that the alarm had already spread, and immediately I returned to bring up those sent to Mr. Doyle and Mr. Howard Harris. The part I left going on to Mr. Francis, having told them I would join them in that neighborhood. I met these sent to Mr. Doyle's and Mr. Harris returning, having met Mr. Doyle's on the road and killed him, and learning from some who joined them that Mr. Harris was from home. I immediately pursued the course taken by the party going on before, but knowing they would complete the work of death and pillage at Mr. Francis before I could get there, I went to Mr. Pete Edwards, expecting to find him there, but they had been here also. Let me do that over.
Take it from I immediately pursued the course.
Okay. I immediately pursued the course taken by the party going on before, but knowing they would complete the work of death and pillage at Mr. Francis before I could get there, I went to Mr. Peter Edwards, expecting to find him there, but they had been here also. I then went to Mr. John T. Barrows. They had been here and murdered him. I pursued on their tracks to Captain DeWitt Harris, where I found the greater part mounted and ready to start. The man now amounting to about 40 shouted and hurrahed as I rode up. Some were in the yard loading their guns, others drank.
Captain Harris and his family had escaped. The property in the house they destroyed, robbing him of money and other valuables.
I ordered them to mount and march instantly. Mount up! Let's go! This was about 9 or 10 o'clock Monday morning. I proceeded to Mr. Levi Waller's 2 or 3 mile distance. I took my station in the rear, and as it was my objective to carry terror and devastation wherever we went, I placed 15 or 20 of the best armed and most to be relied on in front, who generally approached the houses as fast as their horses could run. This was for 2 purposes: to prevent their escape and to strike terror in the inhabitants.
On this account, Nat never got to the houses after leaving Mrs. Whitehead's until the murders were committed, except in one case.
I sometimes got in sight in time to see the work of death completed, viewed the mangled bodies as they lay in silent satisfaction, sophisticated satisfaction. Okay, Jamil, really? Bodies as they lay in silent satisfaction, and immediately started in quest of other victims.
I think that this needs actually some attention to it because
Yeah, because I was just thinking about that. If you really want to know the truth,
yes, dear. At the church. You can pick me up here. Well, it's right by the tunnel. Oh, you're trying to go down Military Highway? Well, you can do that from here. You can be here right at 4? Okay. Well, I'll be right out front, ready to go. All right. Bye-bye.
Because when he said in silent satisfaction, that's a little eerie because it's like
Right.
you're appreciating,
Right.
the point that you're killing these people.
Right.
So then it kind of makes you wonder, was Greg right? Because you remember that I said, maybe he felt some kind of, disdain for what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg said, "No, I don't really think he felt disdain for it."
Yeah.
And reading that,
Right.
which is fun. I'm just catching on since we read through this. I don't know how many freaking times,
This is why we
but
have a person.
yeah, but catching on to it, yeah,
He had to put himself in a really rarefied state of mind in order to do this work, to do this mission.
and I meant complete, total emotionalness.
Yeah.
But then that's a contradiction to me because then why did he feel sick to his stomach coming up with these plans for it?
Because it is still against his nature. I mean, the taking of life,
Right.
and all of that. I mean, it does not come easily. It was not like, okay, well, should I or shouldn't I? Picking.
Right.
This was quite. To consider yourself a prophet is putting yourself to trials and tribulations and expecting the road to be hard and finding it to be hard. It's not just kind of like willy-nilly in terms of like, oh, I'm a prophet today,
Right.
So he had to get himself to a state of mind that allowed him to be able to do this, carry out this mission.
Right. And also putting yourself that you're above all others.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wonder, was that hard for him to do too? Because it seemed like he was a humble guy. It just, he felt he had his purpose of fulfillment to fulfill.
Exactly.
So I wonder, was putting himself above others, thinking that I'm better than others, especially during that time, was that a hard thing for him to fulfill?
Well, I think one of the most telling lines in the narrative is that he says at one point, having been determined that I was great, now I have to live up to being great. He says,
right.
Now that I am, identified as great, I must live up to, the title of being great,
Well, I think that's early on too, because as he said, it was never in his mind or his parents' mind that he was a slave,
right.
or that he would be a slave.
Right.
But now that he is a slave,
right.
I can see how. Matter of fact, God, I hate to say this, but you can relate that to what's going on now with Trump. He didn't think he needs to be in a position of losing.
Mm-hmm.
So with him being a slave, that messed with him because this wasn't his mindset. He didn't have the mindset of being a slave.
Right, he didn't have the mindset. I don't think the Trump analogy works because
the Trump analogy works because Trump don't have the mindset of not being in power.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why he's doing the crap that he's doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's why I use that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Because he don't have the mindset of not being in power.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's doing all these crazy antics. And I wonder was that...
And he's a narcissist.
Well, yeah,
and I don't see Turner as being a narcissist. It's not necessarily about him. It's about the cause, about the mission, about to free his people.
Was it not about him though? Because
I don't think so.
Because just think about that for a minute. Because just think about something the pastor said. No one was happy being a slave. No one wanted to be a slave.
Right.
And even the people said that, why did you come back?
Exactly. That's why I feel like it wasn't about him. If it was about him, he would have left and he would have stayed gone. But he came back.
True. You're right.
Everybody had that question. Why did you come back? What's up, bud? It's like
You're right.
It's about the mission.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that, folks.
No. I think this is what we're trying to all figure out.
Okay. Great.
On this account, Nat never got to the houses after leaving Mrs. Whitehead's until the murders were committed, except in one case.
I sometimes got in sight in time to see the work of death completed, viewed the mangled bodies as they lay in silent satisfaction, and immediately started in quest of other victims.
Having murdered Mrs. Waller and 10 children, they started for Mr. William Williams, having killed him and 2 little boys that were there. While engaged in this, Mrs. Williams fled and got some distance from the house, but she was pursued, overtaken, and compelled to get up behind one of the company, who brought her back, and after showing her the mangled body of her lifeless husband, she was told to get down and lay by his side, where she was shot dead.
I then started to Mr. Jacob Williams, where the family was murdered. Here we found a young man named Drury, who had come on business with Mr. Williams. He was pursued, overtaken, and shot. Mrs. Vaughn was the next place we visited, And after murdering the family here, I determined on starting for Jerusalem. Our numbers amounted now to 50 or 60, all mounted and armed with guns, axes, swords, and clubs. On reaching Mr. James W. Parker's gate, immediately on the road leading to Jerusalem, and about 3 miles distant, it was proposed to me to call there. But I objected, as I knew he was gone to Jerusalem. And my object was to reach there as soon as possible. But some of the men having relations at Mr. Parker's, it was agreed that they might call and get his people get his people. I remained at the gate on the road with 7 or 8, the others going across the field to the house, about half a mile off. After waiting some time for them, I became impatient and started to the house for
And what?
what? Hold on.
Started the house for him. Okay.
Oh, and started to the house for them. Sorry, I forgot to do that.
And on their return, they were met by a party of white men who had pursued their bloodstained track and who had fired on those at the gate and dispersed them, which Nat knew nothing of, not having been at that time rejoined by any of them.
Immediately, blah, 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 blah.
Immediately?
Immediately, on discovering the whites, I ordered my men to halt and form as they appeared to be armed. The white man, 18 in number, approached us in about 100 yards when one of them fired.
This was against the positive orders of Captain Alexander P. Pete, who commanded and had directed the men to reserve their fire till within 30 paces.
I discovered about half of them retreated. I then ordered my men to fire and rush on them. The few remaining stood their ground until we approached within 50 yards, when they fired and retreated. We pursued and overtook some of them who we thought were left for dead.
They were not killed.
After pursuing them about 200 yards and rising a little hill, I discovered they were met by another party and had halted and were reloading their guns.
This was a small party from Jerusalem who knew the Negroes were in the field and had just tied their horses to await their return to the road, knowing that Mr. Parker and family were in Jerusalem, but knew nothing of the party that had gone in with Captain Pete. On hearing the firing, they immediately rushed to the spot and arrived just in time to arrest the progress of these barbarous villains and save the lives of their friends and fellow citizens.
Thinking that those who retreated first and the party who fired on us at 50 or 60 yard distance had all fallen back to meet others with ammunition. As I saw them reloading their guns and more coming up than I saw at first, and several of my bravest men being wounded and others became being wounded, the others became panic struck and squandered over the field. The white man pursued and fired on us several times. Hark had his horse shot under him, and I caught another from him as it was running by me. 5 or 6 of my men were wounded, but none left the field. Finding myself defeated here, I instantly determined to go through a private way and cross the Nottoway River at Cypress Bridge, 3 miles below Jerusalem, and attack that place in the rear, as I expected they would look for me on the other road. And I had a great desire to get there to procure arms and ammunition. After going a short distance in this private way, accompanied by 20 men, I overtook two or three who told me the others were dispersed in every direction. After trying in vain to collect a sufficient force to proceed to Jerusalem, determined to return, as I was sure they would make back to their old neighborhood, where they would rejoin me, make new recruits, and come down again. On my way back, I called at Mrs. Thomas, Mrs. Spencer, and several other places. The white families having fled, we found no more victims to gratify our thirst for blood. So that's very interesting.
Scheduled today. If that's what you're calling about, press 1. If not, press 2. Okay. The next pickup is between 3:45 and 4:15 p.m. from an address on Home Street in Portsmouth, and with a drop-off on Longwood Avenue in Portsmouth. Now, if you'd like to hear more information about that trip, press 1. To cancel it or make any changes, press 2. If you... Let me transfer you to someone who can help. Hi, my name is Jennifer. You're calling for Robinson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so your name?
Sherry Bailey.
D-A-I-L-E-Y?
Yes, ma'am.
It is the S-H-E-R-R-Y?
With an I.
Okay. And the date of birth?
June 5th, 57.
Okay. And are you needing picked up somewhere right now?
Well, I'm scheduled for a pickup at 4 o'clock, and I needed to cancel that.
For today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, are you at the doctor's office now? Because it's showing the pickup time for 11:15. Have you done that already?
It's work, and I got picked up at 11:15, and
Okay.
I had a return trip for 4 o'clock. That's what I'm wanting to cancel.
Okay, so just cancel the B rate for the 4 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the reason for the cancellation?
I've got another ride.
Okay. Here real fast. I have to say in there that you got another ride that was reading you. Anything else I can help you with today, Miss Bailey?
No, you've been really helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You did the same. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
As much trouble to cancel as it is to
It is a reserve, yes. You gotta tell me that. I know. I had a long time trying to reserve the appointment. The lady told me, your name is not coming up. I said, can I just give you the account number, ma'am? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, it must have been a glitch in the system. No kidding.
Right.
But what I was saying is that's very interesting. It lets you, it does let you further know that he really thought he was meant to do this, because even though he was being pursued, he was still looking for people, white people to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the goal was to kill as many
As possible.
as possible, regardless of gender or age.
Yeah, but this was even though he was being pursued by these white men,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for killing these other white people,
Mm-hmm.
he still was like, I don't care. We
Right.
still got to kill more white
It's
people.
once you know it was launched. It was launched.
Right.
And remember, it was several missteps in terms of launching it. You know,
Right.
it was supposed to happen the 4th of July, and then it was supposed to happen another time before then. And it rained in May, and so you know, this was once it started, it was going to go to the end.
Right.
You know.
Right. Okay. Now I need to cash this check before the bank
Oh,
closes.
okay. So basically, that's it for today.
Right before the bank closes.
Right, I understand. I understand. I've been there many times.
Okay, so if you want to do a phone one, that would be great tonight, if you can. Or Greg said he can make it tomorrow, right?
I'm so confused at this point in terms of
Because I know that because I thought it was a 30-minute thing, but I think that was for tomorrow, the 30-minute thing.
that was definitely for today.
Oh well,
Yeah.
can't do today. Well, okay. Well, I will see and call and see about tomorrow.
Okay, if you would do that,
Yeah.
you call Greg.
Yeah, and see about tomorrow. I will definitely be here.
Okay.
So I don't know about him. I will see and call about tomorrow
I-
because he might be walking tomorrow also.
Yeah.
But I do definitely know that we definitely both will be here on Sunday.
Okay. All right. But yeah, call about tomorrow because we'll be here from noon to 4.
4, right.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be
Yeah, so I would definitely be here. So I don't know about him.
Okay.
But I know for Sunday for sure, they'll both definitely be here.
Okay. All right. That's fine. And we'll just kind of keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Pretty much.
That's the way we do it.
Pretty much. So if you can call his understudy and see if he can be here.
Oh, Grant, yeah, he'll actually be around. I mean, today was like an emergency. It's
Right. Oh, Grant's the pastor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who his understudy is. Okay, my man. I got to get names together.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should be calling Father Grant.
Yeah.
I call
Okay.
everybody calls him
Oh,
Grant.
that's great that he came on board for this.
Oh, I mean,
This
he's
is
been wonderful. I mean, that's why we're here.
Right.
And making this.
I like that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if he wants to read with me, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, it would be. So that because he hasn't had a chance to do what Dwight did yesterday, and wanted to have the experience of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll
All right.
keep doing it.
So if depending on how the buses run, if I'm not here by 12:30, I'll definitely be here by 1:30.
Okay.
But I'm focusing on 12:30 being here.
Okay. Okay.
But definitely will be here tomorrow.
Cool beans.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Confessions of Nat Turner. I am Rehearsal. I am Jamel Mills. I will be playing the character of Nat Turner, and I'm hoping to see you guys tomorrow. And so we can finish this up, and hopefully, we'll have our counterparts here to read their parts. Love you guys. Bye.
All right. I guess we can get that one shut down for now. You kind of get used to that sound.
Yeah, you really do. Seriously. Like, I thought it was going to bother me more, but it hasn't.
It's like, hey, we just have like an alarm going off in the back of our stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Dollar Tree and put this like in a little folder or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear.
No problem. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Okay, have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, I'm about to turn this off, darling. Well, good. That's excellent news.